Welcome back to another edition of the Gridiron Throne Podcast, off-season, episode number 3. Really cooking with gas on this. I like it. Keeping the consistency. 2 days in a row. I dig it. Today, we're going to be touching on QBs. How we feeling today, Sheriff?
We're feeling good. Smoking Guns coming out once again. Still pretty hyped about Bears yesterday. Big day for us as an organization. But yeah. Let's break down some QBs. We'll give you a little bit of a rundown, a top 10. I'll give you a top 10 as well. There's that.
Yeah, and we'll make an attempt to throw some highlights on the screen. If it doesn't work, so be it. But let's go. And then
see what we got here. All right, so we're breaking this down straight up. Number one on my board for sure. Given the trade yesterday, I know maybe you're still feeling that they should take CJ Stroud. I think I'm 100% in on their taking AR. As we're looking at AR right now, not too many people even know about the guy, but they know from the combine that he's a physical freak. As we can see, dude flicks the ball like it's nothing 60 yards down the field. Very dynamic in the pocket, can obviously take off 4.43 speed, just blazing in the open field. Boom, cut, looks good. So what do you think, bud?
I think he's Cam Newton-esque. I think that's the best comp. Yep. I think he's, do we dare say, more athletic? I mean, it's hard to say. Cam Newton in his prime was just
we can't say that yet, because right now it looks incredibly comparable, like per the mark. Granted, Cam Newton wins a Heisman and a Natty in his time in college, and then AR plays like 10 games, but still very comparable. Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just he's quick. He can get out of the pocket, as you can see. He's not my number one off the board for sure, but I mean, if he goes 1-1 to Panthers, I think that kills his stock just a tad, because they got rid of their only target. They still have Laviska Shenault, and then they still have Terrace Marshall too. But that's, once again, we're still talking. That's not great. Their line is okay. They did draft that lineman last year as well, but he is a physical freak. I will give you that, but he's not in my top 3, or he's in my top 3, but not number 1 overall.
He's not number 1 overall. All right. So
my one, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, my bad. But yeah, that's my number 1 overall. Next man is your number 1 overall. Is that correct?
That's where we're going with this. We'll go with my number 1 overall. We're going with CJ Stroud. He's a physical freak. He's tall. He can move. He's just overall, he knows how to play in a pro-style offense. And I think the narrative overall of the Ohio State QBs being busts, I think that's done. I think Justin Fields stopped that. I think CJ Stroud's just going to further push the point. He's played with pro-style, or not pro-style, but like pro wide receivers. Look at this gun. Granted, yes, Arkansas State, you're going to have the separation, but you still have to be able to hit them in stride. You're still going to have to make moves. And he did that. He played with Chris Olave. He played with Garrett Wilson. These are all quality wide receivers. That's why he's my number 1. I really kind of hope he goes to the Raiders. That would be a really good landing spot for him. Give him Devontae. I wouldn't be upset if he went to the Texans as well. Just breaking down his tape, though, is just he can move. That's the thing too, is he can look at the precision passing is right there.
I mean, the footwork in the pocket, like, he stands tough. Like, I remember like watching CJ in the Elite or Elite 11, is it, for QBs out of high school?
Yeah.
And dude was doing the same thing then. Like, he's been throwing to high level prospects basically since high school. So for him to go to Ohio State, you're just falling right back in line, right? Like, no hitch in anything. Where the difference is gonna lie, right? This guy hasn't seen failure. T-Law never saw failure, right? Now, once we get to the NFL and you don't have 5 stars anymore, and this crazy backs at abundance, right? Because when these guys get hurt, the number 2 comes in. The number 2 is still a 5-star, or the number 3 is still a 5-star. So it's like, now the difference is going to be how do these guys do when they don't have that level of talent? Competition is higher. How are they going to show up? And I think that's where maybe the knock starts to become on like Bryce, opposed to CJ is that we think CJ, just given like that frame and those tangibles, he might have more success than Bryce.
Yeah, as we just transition
As we move
into,
in. Yep.
as we move into pretty much, would you say he's your number 2, or would you say he's your number 3 on
I got him at 3. We got AR 1, CJ 2, Bryce 3.
So mine's just a tad different, and you're gonna dislike it, but I'm going CJ Stroud 1, I'm going Young 2, and then I'm going AR 3. Nothing against AR, it's just, Bryce has gunned it for 3 years. We have such a small sample size with AR, but moving into Young, I think everybody is afraid of his height. But he's Kyler Murray's height, but he's got a better arm in my opinion. Like, he just stands in the pocket, can place the ball where he wants. And that last throw right there, under pressure, stepping up, he is able to run. That was something that I kind of criticized, saying he really couldn't. Maybe just because I didn't see it as much.
I think it was a scheme thing. I think it was more like Saban's like, hey, bro, we ain't doing that bullshit here. You want to go fucking do that? Go somewhere else.
Yeah, like, exactly. I mean, here's another. I mean, this is just a good video to have up. Under pressure, able to move out of the pocket, and that's against LSU. So this is all against SEC teams. So pretty much a lot of pro-ready players come out of the SEC. That's known. Not really dropping any news on that one. But like, you're just seeing like the different intangibles that he brings to the table. He's able to roll out of the pocket. He's able to throw on the run. Look at that, finding his. That's a good throw. That's the needle.
The shoulder twitch too, which would made him like it made the defender think he might go upfield, then flicks the ball. That was a good move.
Yep. Once again, rolled out of the pocket. You're going to see that a lot. So throw him in a West Coast offense. He would fit in perfectly with like a Seattle offense, honestly.
He would. That could be his comp almost.
I'm trying to think of his comp, like
a young Russell.
Could be. I think.
Granted,
that's a good one. That's a very good comp. Who would your comp be for CJ Stroud then?
I mean, CJ is 6'3", 220. So
are we saying Josh Allen? Maybe a less arm than Josh though.
Yeah.
I mean,
but not by much. I don't think. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's probably like the best comp, like height wise, probably as well. I mean, this is another good one with Bryce. Under pressure, stayed in there, didn't, bail out, using his feet against Texas. That's still, still doing what he needs to do. And this is all 2022 highlights as well. So, still good competition. I think that just transitions over to our, fourth QB on the board. At least he's my fourth.
He's my fourth too.
Levi's. Well, get him a sponsorship with Levi's.
No shit, right?
How
have they not capitalized on that yet? Right, that would have been the first thing I would have done is Levi. I've been like, all right,
with the NIL money. I'm gonna say this a lot, but I could see him being a sneaky, depending on if he goes in the top 10.
So stats on him are going to be 11 games played, 2,406 yards, 65% completion, and then 19 tutties, 10 picks. So we can see they're not overwhelming numbers. This pick is going to be solely based on intangibles and size and what he could potentially do more than what he's done. Same thing with AR. If you really must.
You want to know my comp for Will right here?
Well, what do we got?
Justin Herbert is my comp for him.
Okay. Fine.
They both played at Kentucky obviously is a little.
Herbert swung the rock though at Oregon, so.
I mean, yeah, look at this. So, like, and mind you, he played at Oregon compared, Will played in the SEC, but he played with no wide receivers. Like,
yeah.
That's
the trend though when you go to Kentucky is that there's not going to be wide receivers there for you.
Right, exactly. Did he play all 3-4 years at Kentucky? Do you know?
See if we can do a quick.
Yeah, do a little quick thing while I just talk more on him.
The comp. That's hilarious.
Is it right on?
It's fucking Josh Allen.
Interesting. That's even a better one. Well, here's the thing: is he's got a great arm too. That's what breaks it down even more. Is he's got that arm that is just incredible.
Penn State transfer. So
okay, what came out of Penn State? Okay, so yeah. I mean, it's not a bad. So he played, or he was at least watching. I don't know if he played too much for Penn State, but he at least has some games under his belt. And yeah, and he battled injuries last year too. That's another reason why his stats might not be as high as some other players like a Max Duggan or even Stetson Bennett, but he did go against those guys. That's another thing is like, he went against elite talent on defense and still like right there, threading the needle, trusting your wide receiver. That's my
ball at the front of the pylon was a good ball.
Yeah. I mean, you got to throw it. I mean, he's got to be your number 4 at least in QB ranks, if not higher. He could go higher for all I know. Like people could be afraid of Bryce, but I don't think that's the case. I think depending on landing spot, I think we're going to have a really good QB class coming out of this one. I think we might see a couple surprise teams taking QBs, and it's going to be like, interesting. Like, yeah, Texans need one. Carolina obviously traded up for one.
Yep.
Colts need one. He would be great on the Colts. So like that's just like one big thing too. Transitioning into Stetson Bennett. He's kind of lower on it. He's 2-year starter. Don't think he lost a game as a starter, did he?
Don't believe so.
Played with a powerhouse defense, powerhouse
product of your environment. Like, let's call it what it is. My goodness. Yeah. Like at the combine, the dude had to take like extra hitches in his delivery just to get that ball downfield to where like AR was flicking it with his wrist. Not to say like there's anything wrong with that, but those extra hitches mean extra time that you have to load up, meaning you're taking longer. You got to get rid of the ball, is what I'm saying. So that could be a potential issue.
Yeah, he'll be a good 4th or 5th round pickup for a team to back up. He could go to Tampa Bay. That'd be a 6th spot for him. Go back up in New Orleans. He might be a career backup for all we know, and just comes in.
That's kind of my assumption.
I mean, yeah, and then it's just because there's basically 4 to 5 really good QBs that I can think of off the top of my head that would go ahead of them. But that team's going to go. I mean, even Seattle would be that's another team that needs one. If these teams just want a backup, ride with Geno Smith for 3 years and then sit, he can move. And that's the thing with Stetson. Yeah, he had in the combine, he really had to, gun it, but he played with elite talent.
He did. No, he did.
Throw him in the right system. I mean, you could even throw him in the Patriots system. I think he does well. I'm pretty sure he's got a good size. He ran like a 4.67.
Yep.
He's lengthy, I think personally. And you throw him in a right system, maybe a Tennessee system where, Henry might be gone, but where the basis is on the run and you have to exist he'd be a good player, I think. But yeah, he'll be a later round, back end of my top 10 list.
Back end of my top 10 too. Back end of the draft. I think even the 4th would be kind of generous maybe for him. Yeah. I think 5th, 6th.
But I think
more realistic.
He'd be my sleeper though for overall in the year. That being said, let's slide into our Tanner McKee.
This guy is now interesting, just because I know very little about him. We do know he's a big fucking body, that's for sure. Stats not overwhelming. Again, this is another pick more on intangibles and what they prospectively can do than what they've done, which is just so hard to evaluate because that's that's the name of the game. Can you find that guy who didn't play? Can you find that stud who didn't get all this, didn't go to Alabama, who didn't get every, snap, so to speak.
Played in a weaker.
This guy lies. Like, I don't think he was the starter last year. He might have been, but.
Yeah, he was. And they weren't a very good team, Stanford. I think David Shaw is finally out of Stanford as well. Kind of bringing in a new regime, I believe. I could be completely wrong on that, but I think he's gone. Overall, he was down a lot. If you see in a lot of these highlights, they were getting smashed. And, that's kind of just showing that you can play being down. I think he would fit in good with the team. His comp, in my opinion, would be just like depending on his height. I wish I would have looked up his height, but he could be like a
6'6".
He's 6'6". Okay.
Brock Osweiler. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, and he could sling it clearly. Like you could see him and he's got a, mediocre vertical. I mean, I'm trying to think of a really good comp for him. It's tough. He'd be good with once again, Oakland. If Oakland doesn't take like a QB and they wait, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Have him sit behind like Jimmy G, for instance, or, let someone develop ahead of him And if he could be a career backup as well, but I could see him making good starts. Pretty much the entire AFC or NFC South needs a QB.
Yeah.
Have him learn from, maybe Derek Carr would be a good comp.
I don't know.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to judge it, but I mean, looking at he's doing things right on a really bad team. I mean,
that's fair. On a really bad team, he's doing things right, which is a good sign.
Not afraid to take a hit. It looks like, still finding guys downfield.
Not much protection. Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on from Tanner McKee. He'll be a 5th or 6th round pick probably.
But he could be a
fantasy radar.
Could be a sleeper. Yeah, could be a sleeper.
All right, let's go into Hendon Hooker because this one's kind of exciting to me because I think this is a guy that is going to fall in fantasy drafts, maybe fall in the NFL draft, but going to land in a good spot. He's going to be a year or two project. If you have a team that's contending and you need a QB in the future, you have a Aaron Rodgers, you might have a Zach Wilson on your team where, you don't have him for this year or, they could be gone next year. This would be a good player to have. He tore his ACL last year.
That's what it was. I was going to ask you what the injury was.
It was an ACL, so he's recovering. Wasn't at the combine, I don't believe. He might have done the interviews, but he's just, you could see, I believe he wasn't a full starter for the entire year. Once again, if someone fact checks me, that's fine. But just looking at him play in the SEC and just kind of led that team. Tennessee was like sneaky good. Didn't they beat Bama this year too?
Yes.
I think they beat Bama, they beat like A&M, and then they got like boat raced by like Georgia, but so did everybody. But
literally, yeah.
Just seeing him like gun it downfield, like Jalen Hyatt, I think that's him right there. You can't ask for a better potential player, and it looks like he can stay in the pocket. He's got good size, kind of like Stroud in that aspect, and just wasn't because he didn't go to Ohio State. I think that's where like people didn't realize him, but like you could see if you have good quick wide receivers that can run straight.
Yeah.
And then there's him running on that play too, like just breaking it down. He has the intangibles of a good QB for the future, and I think he'll be like a sneaky 3rd round pick in the NFL draft. And I think a team will take a risk on him, whether or not it's one of these top ones or San Francisco needs a QB. Like let's be honest, Trey Lance coming off of injury, Brock Purdy coming off of injury. They might not draft him, but you never know. A lot of teams need QBs or will need QBs. Does Jordan Love end up becoming something too?
Right, which very possible, very very likely as well.
And that's a fun part about NFL draft too, is nobody thought Jordan Love was going to go in the 1st round. For him to go in the 1st round, but I mean, I like him too. Is like that'd be my comp for Hooker is one of those guys that sits behind a veteran QB and kind of learns. I mean, maybe Pittsburgh moves on from Kenny Pickett. Doubt it. They'll probably draft Jordan Addison. We'll talk about him in a couple weeks. Yep. But these are just. I think he'll be an excellent player. What are your thoughts on him?
I do as well. The stats were off the chain too this year. I think it might have been like 27-2 before his injury. I mean, the guy was definitely in Heisman contention before that. Like the team was trending upward. They were fucking looking really good before his injury. But yeah, as we're looking, like dude can sit in the pocket, sling it. What a catch. He can move around into the pocket very well. And then as we already seen before, he can take off. Let's see, moving right, ball right, good ball. But yeah. He was moving left and then threw a touchdown. He can move right, throw a touchdown. So
he had a QBR of 89.5, which led NCAA last year. He was 1st in that, and he was tied for 1st in interceptions, which is insane. So 27-2, like you said, it's just great. And then even the year before, let's not sleep on 2021. I don't know if you know his stats, but he had 31 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That means he protects the ball.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm saying he's going to be such a sneaky grab for fantasy. Depending on where he even goes, even if he's a backup, as long as he doesn't back up Josh Allen or like one of the elite 6 QBs like a Burrow.
I don't think that's going to be
no, and that's what I'm saying. Like Tennessee could really use him when they flopped on Malik Willis.
They didn't flop on Malik Willis. It's 1 year.
I think he doesn't throw the ball. He's afraid to throw it.
I do believe that's true. I do believe that is true. Yes.
That being said, I think we hit just about everything with Hooker. We can go on to Max Duggan, the national. He played in the national championship. That's his big, call to fame. He had a really good year.
Whooped.
Yeah, got whooped, but I think everybody got whooped by Georgia. I think that wasn't even a surprise. I don't think anyone besides potentially Bama would have kept up with them.
So let's see what we got here. I mean, let's see how he stands in the pocket. So he's doing a little read option here, takes off. I mean,
he ran a 4.52 40. So as you can see, he can run.
He can run.
So, just seeing, we're watching it again. He's sitting in the pocket, drops back, nice little deep ball, hits him in stride. Boom, touchdown.
Football.
Heisman hope. He was a Heisman hopeful. Our guy Caleb out of USC was just better, and he probably would have gone. Caleb would probably go 1 in this draft. Honestly, he was the best.
Of course, don't get us started.
Yeah, we could talk about him all day. But Max did put up a good fight. He can use his legs. He can, he's not afraid to take a hit. You could see it right there. He's diving headfirst into the end zone, doing what he needs to do for his team.
I'm getting Taylor Heineke vibes. I don't know.
That'd be a good team. That'd be another good team I keep forgetting about is the Commanders that need a QB. I mean, Sam Howell's there for now. Let's not discredit that, but it is possible that he ends up on there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'2", 209, so he's on the smaller. I mean, he's still 6'2", so he'll fit in the pocket. I don't want to say he's Mac Jones because he's way more athletic, but it'd be a Mac Jones type player where he gets drafted and it's like, oh, okay, we got Mac Jones. I think a team is willing to wait on Max Duggan. Once again, sit him behind a vet. As long as he doesn't have to start right away.
He's a sit behind a vet type of guy, and then just see what develops from that point.
Yeah, 32 touchdowns last year, 8 interceptions, 78.2 QBR. Kind of what you want out of a QB. He played for 3 years at he played all 4 years, but I don't know if he started in 2019. I don't know how many games he did, but over the years, this is the year he popped off. He made sure he threw his touchdowns this year. I don't know if he just had he had Quentin Johnson, so that helps. Yep. Maybe he'd be good in Denver, to be honest. He'd be one of those guys that would really pop off and kind of bring, if Russ Wilson,
he would be good to sit behind Russ. I would agree to that.
Yeah. And then even I'm trying to think, if they're done with him, he's, seems like he's a problem. If it doesn't work out this year, maybe Max Duggan would be one of those late round guys you bring in and they could run a similar offense. They tried to Trace McSorley, but I'm saying Duggan's better than McSorley. That would be a good place. Texans, if they don't they're taking a QB at 1 or at 2, but another guy that would potentially be solid. Colts, if the Colts don't go QB at 4, he would fit in good there. Run a little offense. I mean, it depends on the coach what kind of offense they want to run, but
he's a fourth, 5th rounder to me.
Yeah, 100%. I don't see him going earlier than that. If he does, that means a team is wowed by him. But he is fast, and he's got a decent arm. So, it's got everything you want out of him.
Yeah.
The last video I have will be, that we're using off of YouTube, is for Jaron Hall out of BYU. 31 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. What do you got for me?
Taysom 2.0. Let's see it.
Taysom 2.0. So that's the comp?
That's the comp. First time I watched him, I was like, is Taysom Hill back on the team? And then I was like, nope, there's just another guy who's literally yoked playing quarterback who shouldn't be playing quarterback. So
he's got a pretty good arm. I mean, I think
so did Taysom.
That's gonna get picked off by anyone, in the NFL and probably anyone in a Power 5 school.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this so far, it's all out of Utah Tech.
A lot of Utah Tech.
So far,
my opinion on this guy gets converted immediately after he goes undrafted. Taysom 2.0. There's not much more I can say about it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he could end up in a Blake Bell situation. Remember him out of Oklahoma?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just always going to run the ball and end up as a tight end. This guy might actually end up. Oh, we're going in the scream ads.
Okay.
No free ads. Scream.
Not yet. Not yet. Baby
Not
steps.
yet. No free ads. I don't know. He's one of those players I don't know a whole lot because BYU, I don't really watch too many of their games. That being said, he could maybe a 6th or 7th rounder. A team might take a chance on him. Because here's the thing: is this? I'd say there's about, like I said earlier, there's about 6 QBs that have jobs for the time being. New Orleans needs a QB. They might take one this year. Carolina needs a QB. Commanders need a QB. For all intents and purposes, everyone needs a QB. Jalen Hurts is great. Justin Fields got his weapon finally. We're going to see him hopefully do a Josh Allen with Diggs, do a Burrow and Chase. They played together, and Bengals are a little bit different of a team because they actually know how to draft wide receivers.
Yeah.
But even Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, how many more years does he have? Maybe they draft Jaren Hall. They could change that entire offense with somebody like him.
I don't think he's a long-term solution by any means.
No, I think he'll be a one and a nice complimentary player.
Yeah.
So if you want to hit me with your top 10, we can go from there. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can kind of break it down from here. Hit me with your top 10.
Top 10. First one is AR, 2 CJ, 3 Bryce Young, 4 Will Levis, 5 Hendon Hooker, 6 Tanner McKee, and that's just kind of based off his frame and shit. Not really anything that he's done. 7, we just saw him dug in. 8, we didn't talk about him. We didn't show any highlights, but I got Jake Hefner from Fresno State at 8. He can really sling the rock as well, but then again, Fresno State competition-wise, not super difficult. Fresno State, Derek Carr, right? Also Fresno State and Tay. Okay, so that's at 8. 9. Let's go Stenson. Let's go Stenson at 9. And then 10, I want to put Jaren Hall, but then at 10, let's do Jaren Hall, but we'll do honorable mentions of DTR, right? Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Malik Cunningham, and what else? Is there any other honorable mentions that I think are close to that 10 spot?
I think Tune played out of Houston, right?
Tune played out of Houston, and when I looked up his numbers earlier, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were very nice. But I've never seen anything about that guy. We should have had some highlights on him.
Yeah. Maybe in the future, maybe after a post draft, we can kind of do one just to see.
Sure,
but good honorable mentions. My top 10, very similar, so I can run through it, but I'm higher on Stroud, so he's my 1. Bryce Young, 2, pedigree. 3, AR. You can't go wrong with AR. He was not going to hurt you in fantasy. It's just going to be a project. It's going to be a 2-3 year, kind of like Trevor Lawrence was, but he does have the QB whisperer with Frank Reich. So, maybe Carson Wentz would be not him comp, but like that'd be a good one. 5, Hendon Hooker. He's solid. 6, McKee. I think he'll be a backup, maybe learn from Derek Carr in New Orleans. 7 is Stetson Bennett. I think people are going to sleep on him, but I also think he knows how to win. That's what put him with a Bill Belichick, put him on, put him with a good coach.
Win. So is Trevor Lawrence, but that doesn't always mean
Trevor Lawrence is a top 5 QB, especially for dynasty wise. I would, pay up for him. That being said, 8, I would go Jaren Hall.
Okay.
Just moving him up.
Sure.
Just to be a little bit different. I think he does have enough arm strength, and someone is gonna, bite on it.
Yep.
9, Max Duggan.
Yep.
I think that's gonna be a steal of the draft. I think if he learns from someone, maybe a Doug Flutie-esque player. I mean, he's tall. I don't know if Flutie was like 5'8", right? Or
it wasn't very tall. 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
Boston College.
Yeah. No, he played at Notre Dame, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't remember Doug Flutie. I feel like it was Notre Dame, though.
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
And then number 10, you already mentioned him, but I'm going with Thompson Robinson out of UCLA. We watched him go toe to toe with many teams. He went toe to toe with USC and Caleb Williams. He went against, pretty much everybody. He can run, he can
4-year
throw.
starter, I think, too. Maybe.
Yeah. And he came back for his senior or like super senior year. So
That's what I thought. Yeah, he was there for 5 years. He's been there forever. I remember when he was a freshman.
Yeah, and he put up good numbers too. He could have been a Heisman hopeful. Just it was a loaded QB, for this year. That being said, I think he'll end up being like a steal. I don't think he'll start on a team as like a long term option, but I see him being that like third stringer that makes his way up with Pittsburgh. Trying to think of another team that just like needs a QB. Tennessee potentially, where they just throw somebody out there and he ends up balling out because he can actually sling the rock. So that's my top 10.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that will conclude it. Any final words on our QBs?
It's a good class. It's definitely a good class this year. There's going to be some steals outside of our top 3 that everybody knows who they are. So it's going to be a good class. I think the running backs, that one's going to be a very interesting discussion to have, just because I feel like we have a lot of good running backs in this class. So that should be a good one, a good next one coming up.
I agree with you. This class is very good. I think it's got a lot of sleepers in it. I think your top 3 are going to be or top 4 with Levis. You're going to see those guys being named. If they all go in the top 10, this is all going to be based off of their, draft spot, obviously. But I think if those guys go in the top 10 to teams, those are your top 4 outside of Bijan. Those are your top 5 picks. You go Young, Stroud, AR, and Levis in the top 5. So basically pick 1, 2 through, 1, 5 are those guys. Which means good for people who go for 1, 6 or go for like a later pick, because you might get the JSNs and Gibbs of the world. We after the draft we'll do a nice little mock draft just to see where landing spots go. Kind of elaborate a little bit further in that with more information, but I feel like we did a nice little touching point on that one.
Yep. Yes,
all right, let's close it out. Thanks for tuning in.
Running backs coming soon.